Sergeant Kang Junseo stood at the edge of the Grand Diplomatic Hall and watched the alien delegates move like colorful waves across the polished floor. He had been on Galactic Station Arcadia 7 for only 3 weeks, but already he understood one thing very clearly. Humans were not welcome here. The other species looked at him and his small security team with a mixture of fear and disgust. They whispered words like Deathworlder and Primitive when they thought he could not hear. But Junseo heard everything. His training had made his senses sharp, and his patience had made his face like stone. Tonight was the biggest diplomatic summit of the year. Representatives from 47 species had gathered to discuss trade agreements and territorial boundaries. The human delegation was small, only 5 diplomats and 10 security personnel. They were new to galactic society, and most aliens still considered them little more than clever animals from a dangerous planet. Junseo scanned the crowd with careful eyes. His job was simple: watch for threats and protect the delegates. He did not need to speak or smile or pretend to enjoy the strange music that filled the air. He only needed to be ready. That was when he saw her for the first time. She stood near the center of the hall, surrounded by admirers who kept a respectful distance. Her skin was silver blue, smooth like polished metal under the soft lights. Her eyes glowed with a gentle luminescence, and her tall, elegant form was draped in robes that seemed to flow like water. She was Volanthi, one of the most respected species in the galaxy. But something about her was different from the others. While the aliens around her laughed and talked, she remained quiet. Her glowing eyes moved across the room slowly, and then they found him. Junseo felt a strange jolt when their gazes met. Most aliens looked at humans with contempt or fear. But this woman looked at him with something else entirely. Was it curiosity? Interest? He could not tell. She held his gaze for 3 long seconds before someone spoke to her and drew her attention away. Junseo forced himself to look elsewhere. He had a job to do. He could not afford to be distracted by a beautiful alien woman, no matter how unusual her eyes seemed. The hours passed slowly. Junseo maintained his position and watched the crowd thin as delegates retired to their quarters. Everything seemed peaceful. Everything seemed normal. Then everything changed in a single heartbeat. A figure in dark clothing burst from behind a decorative pillar and rushed toward a small delegate from the Morvi species. A blade gleamed in the attacker's hand. Screams erupted across the hall. The alien security guards froze. Their training had not prepared them for such direct violence. They stood like statues while death raced across the floor. But Junseo was already moving. His body reacted before his mind could catch up. He crossed the distance in seconds, his legs pumping with power that surprised even him. He caught the attacker's arm just before the blade could find its target. With a twist of his wrist and a shift of his weight, he sent the assassin crashing to the ground. The attacker tried to rise, but Junseo was faster. He delivered a precise strike to the neck, and the figure went limp. Silence filled the hall. Every alien eye was fixed on the human who stood over the unconscious assassin. They had never seen anything move so fast. They had never witnessed such raw physical power controlled with such precision. Junseo straightened his uniform and stepped back. His breathing was calm. His hands did not shake. To him, this was simply Tuesday. How did he do that? Someone whispered. Did you see his speed? That should be impossible. Deathworlder reflexes. I heard stories, but I never believed them. Junseo ignored the whispers. He signaled his team to secure the attacker and check the delegate. His eyes swept the room once more, searching for additional threats. And that was when he found her watching him again. The silver-blue woman had moved closer during the chaos. She stood only 20 meters away now, and her luminescent eyes were wide with something that looked like wonder. She studied him like he was a puzzle she desperately wanted to solve. Their eyes met once more. This time, neither of them looked away. A Volante male in ornate military dress appeared at her side and grabbed her arm. He pulled her backward and shot a look of pure hatred toward Junseo. The woman let herself be led away, but she glanced over her shoulder one final time. Junseo felt his heart beat faster. He did not understand why. He had faced death 100 times without fear. But one look from this alien woman made his pulse race like nothing else. He shook his head and returned to his duties. He was a soldier. He had no business thinking about luminescent eyes and silver blue skin. 2 hours later, as Junseo prepared to end his shift, his commanding officer approached with surprising news. "Sergeant Kang, you have been reassigned." "Sir?" "High Arbiter Valith Sora has requested a human security detail for her personal protection. Specifically, she asked for the one who moved like death itself." "That means you." Junseo blinked. "A Volante noble wants a human guard? That seems unusual." His commander shrugged. "Politics are not our concern. Your job is to protect her. Report to her quarters at 0600 tomorrow. And Sergeant? Try not to cause an interstellar incident." Junseo saluted and walked away. His mind was spinning with questions. Why would a powerful alien woman want a human at her side? What did she see when she looked at him? And why did the thought of seeing her again make him feel something he had not felt in years? He did not know the answers, but he knew one thing for certain. His life was about to become much more complicated. Junseo arrived at High Arbiter Valith's quarters exactly at 0600. He stood at attention outside her door and waited for permission to enter. The door slid open, and there she was. In the softer light of her private chambers, Valith looked even more striking than she had in the diplomatic hall. Her silver blue skin seemed to glow from within, and her luminescent eyes studied him with quiet intensity. She wore simpler robes today, and her posture was less rigid than before. "You came," she said. Her voice was like music, soft and flowing. "You requested me, High Arbiter. I am here to serve." She tilted her head slightly. "You speak so formally. Do all humans communicate this way?" "Only when we are on duty." A small smile touched her lips. "Then perhaps I should keep you on duty always. I find your directness refreshing." Before Junseo could respond, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. A tall Volante male appeared, dressed in the same ornate military uniform from the night before. His face twisted with anger when he saw Junseo. "What is this creature doing here?" he demanded. Valith's expression became cold. "Lord Commander Threxen, this is my assigned security specialist, Sergeant Kang Junseo of Earth." Threxen moved closer to Junseo and looked down at him with open contempt. "A human? You requested a human to protect you. Have you lost your senses, Valith? I saw what he did last night. He moved faster than any being I have ever witnessed. He neutralized the threat while our own guards stood frozen." Threxen laughed harshly. "He is a trained animal, nothing more. Deathworlders have quick reflexes because their savage planet demands it. That does not make him worthy of standing near you." Junseo remained perfectly still. His face showed nothing. He had heard worse insults before, and he refused to give this arrogant alien the satisfaction of a reaction. Threxen leaned even closer. "Do you understand me, human pet? You are nothing here. You are a curiosity, a novelty. My betrothed may find you amusing for now, but soon she will tire of you." Betrothed. The word struck Junseo like a blow. This cruel male was engaged to Valith? He kept his expression neutral, but something twisted in his chest. "I understand my duties, Lord Commander. I am here to protect the High Arbiter. Nothing more. Threxen sneered and turned to Valeth. Keep your pet on a short leash. I will not have him embarrassing our house. He stormed away without another word. Silence hung in the air for a long moment. Valeth let out a slow breath, and her shoulders dropped slightly. I apologize for his behavior, she said quietly. Threxen is not known for his kindness. You do not need to apologize for him. She looked at Juncio with surprise. Most would say I should control my betrothed's temper, that his actions reflect upon me. Where I come from, each person is responsible for their own actions. Valeth's eyes widened. What a strange concept. Your species continues to fascinate me. Over the following days, Juncio shadowed Valeth through her diplomatic duties. He stood guard during meetings, escorted her to formal dinners, and maintained a protective perimeter whenever she moved through the station. And slowly, they began to talk. It started with simple questions. Valeth wanted to know about Earth, about human customs, about the world that had produced such fascinating creatures. Juncio answered honestly, describing the blue oceans and green forests of his homeworld. Your planet sounds beautiful, Valeth said one evening as they walked through a quiet corridor. I have heard it is also deadly. Extreme temperatures, violent weather, predators everywhere. It can be harsh, but we adapted. We learned to survive. More than survive. You thrive. Your species is barely a century old in galactic terms, yet you have already proven yourselves warriors of remarkable skill. Juncio shook his head. We are not just warriors. We are artists and scientists and farmers and parents. Fighting is only a small part of who we are. Valeth stopped walking and turned to face him. You form deep bonds with others, do you not? I have read that humans will sacrifice themselves for strangers. Is this true? It is. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. It is simply what we do. Extraordinary, she whispered. In my culture, we protect only what belongs to us. The concept of defending a stranger is almost incomprehensible. Their conversation was interrupted by shouting from around the corner. Juncio's instincts flared, and he pushed Valeth behind him as three figures in black emerged from the shadows. Assassins. The first attacker lunged with an energy blade. Juncio caught the weapon arm and twisted hard. Bones cracked, and the assassin screamed. The second attacker swung at his head, but Juncio ducked and delivered a devastating punch to the stomach. The third assassin circled around, heading straight for Valeth. Time seemed to slow. Juncio saw the blade arcing toward the woman he was sworn to protect. He had no time to intercept the attacker. There was only one option. He threw himself between Valeth and the blade. The energy weapon sliced through his shoulder, burning through flesh and muscle. Pain exploded through his body like fire. But Juncio did not fall. He grabbed the assassin's throat with his good arm and squeezed until the figure collapsed. All three attackers lay defeated on the floor. Juncio swayed on his feet. Blood poured from his wound, soaking his uniform. His vision blurred at the edges, but he turned to check on Valeth. She was unharmed. She was safe. He allowed himself to smile before his legs gave way. Valeth caught him as he fell. She lowered him gently to the ground and pressed her hands against his wound. Her luminescent eyes were wide with shock and something deeper. Why? She demanded. Why did you do that? You could have died. Juncio looked up at her beautiful face and spoke through the pain. That is my job. But his eyes said something more. And as medics rushed toward them, Valeth could not look away from the human who had nearly given his life for hers. She touched his cheek gently, feeling the warmth of his strange alien skin. You were willing to die for me, she whispered. Why does that matter so much? She did not know the answer yet. But she knew everything had changed. Juncio woke in the medical bay with bright lights burning above him. His shoulder throbbed with a dull ache, but the sharp agony was gone. He tried to sit up and found that his body responded better than expected. A Volanthi physician rushed to his side. "Please remain still. You suffered severe damage to your upper torso. The energy blade nearly severed critical vessels." "How long was I unconscious?" "Approximately 6 hours. Your recovery speed is remarkable. Our projections suggested you would remain unconscious for at least 2 days. Juncio flexed his fingers and rotated his injured shoulder. Pain flared, but it was manageable. Humans heal fast. We had to, or we would not have survived our world. The physician shook his head in amazement. Your species defies everything we know about biology. You should not exist, and yet here you are. The door to the medical bay slid open, and Valith entered. She carried a small container in her hands, and her expression was uncertain. When she saw Juncio awake and moving, relief flooded her luminescent eyes. You are already recovering. The physician said it would take days. I heal quickly. She approached his bed and stood beside him. For a long moment, she simply looked at him, as if trying to memorize every detail of his face. I brought you something, she said softly. She opened the container to reveal a delicate cup filled with steaming liquid. Traditional Volanthi healing tea. In my culture, preparing this tea for another is a gesture of deep respect and gratitude. Juncio accepted the cup and took a careful sip. The liquid was warm and slightly sweet, with a hint of something floral. Thank you. It is good. Vela smiled, but there was sadness behind her eyes. You saved my life. A cup of tea seems like such a small thing in return. You owe me nothing. I was doing my duty. Is that all it was? She sat on the edge of his bed and studied his face. Duty? Juncio hesitated. He knew he should say yes. He knew he should maintain professional distance. But something about this woman made him want to be honest. I do not know, he admitted. I only know that when I saw that blade coming toward you, I did not think. I simply moved. Valith was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. I have never had anyone protect me before. Not truly. In my world, protection is about power and ownership. My guards serve my house, not me. They would let me die if my house commanded it. That sounds like a cold way to live. It is the only way I have ever known. She looked down at her hands. My betrothal to Threxen was arranged when I was a child. I had no choice in the matter. Our houses needed an alliance, and I was the price. Juncio felt anger rise in his chest. You are not property. No one should be traded like goods. Valith laughed bitterly. In my culture, that is exactly what I am. Highborn females are assets to be bargained. We exist to produce heirs and strengthen alliances. Our feelings do not matter. On Earth, we believe everyone deserves to choose their own path. We marry for love, not politics. Love? The word seemed foreign on her tongue. I have heard of this concept. An emotional bond between equals, chosen freely. It sounds like a beautiful dream. It is not just a dream. It is how we live. Valith met his eyes, and something shifted in her expression. Tell me more about human love. How does it work? How do you know when you have found it? Juncio considered the question carefully. It is different for everyone, but usually it starts with small things. A desire to see someone smile, a need to protect them, happiness when they are near and emptiness when they are away. That sounds terrifying, opening yourself to another person so completely. It can be, but it is also the most wonderful feeling in the universe. They talked for hours. Valith asked endless questions about human relationships, human families, human choices. Juncio answered as honestly as he could, and with each answer, he watched something awaken in her eyes. The door burst open suddenly, and Threxen stormed into the room. His face was twisted with fury. "I knew I would find you here," he shouted at Valith, sitting beside this animal like some lovesick child. "Have you no shame?" Valith stood quickly. "Threxen, I was merely checking on my protector. He saved my life. He is nothing, a beast from a savage world. And yet you spend hours at his bedside while your betrothed waits." Threxen turned his rage toward Juncio. "You think you are special, human? I challenge you to an honor duel. We will see how brave you are when facing a true warrior." Juncio looked at the arrogant male calmly. "I decline." Shock rippled across Threxen's face. "You cannot decline. It is a matter of honor. I will not fight over someone like she as a prize. The High Arbiter is not property to be won. She is a person." The room went completely silent. Threxen stared at Juncio as if the human had spoken in a language that made no sense. The Lanthi guards who had gathered at the door exchanged confused glances. No one in their history had ever refused a duel with such words. Valith pressed her hand against her heart. Her eyes glistened with tears she could not explain. Threxen sputtered with impotent rage. "This is not over, human. You will regret this insult." He stormed out of the room, leaving chaos in his wake. Hours later, after the station had grown quiet, Juncio stood alone on an observation deck. His shoulder ached, but he needed the peace that only the stars could provide. He stared at the endless darkness and tried to sort through his confused feelings. Soft footsteps approached from behind. He knew who it was without turning. Valith moved to stand beside him. They watched the stars together in comfortable silence. Finally, she turned to face him. Her luminescent eyes glowed with emotion as she reached up and touched his cheek gently. Her fingers were cool against his warm skin. "If only you were mine, human," she whispered. Her voice trembled with longing. Juncio opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, alarms began to wail throughout the station. Red lights flashed. A voice announced that hostile forces were attacking. Valith's eyes went wide with fear. Juncio grabbed her hand and pulled her towards safety. Whatever words he might have said would have to wait. Right now, he had a battle to fight and a woman to protect. The station shook as another explosion ripped through its outer hull. Emergency lights bathed everything in angry red, and the sounds of weapons fire echoed through the corridors. Juncio pulled Valith into a secure room and activated the door locks. "Stay here. Do not open this door for anyone except me." "Where are you going?" "To fight. That is what I do." Fear and desperation filled Valith's eyes. "You are still wounded. You cannot go out there." Juncio checked his sidearm and grabbed a rifle from the emergency weapons locker. "Watch me." He sprinted through the chaos of the station, dodging panicked civilians and confused guards. As he ran, his earpiece crackled with desperate communications. The attackers were mercenaries, heavily armed and organized. They had already overwhelmed 3 security checkpoints. Juncio found the other members of his human team at the main corridor junction. Sergeant Park Yuno was barking orders while Corporal Lee Ji-hoon set up defensive positions. "Kong!" Yuna shouted. "Good to see you on your feet. We have hostiles converging from Sections 7 and 12. Alien security forces are falling back everywhere." "How many attackers?" "At least 50. Maybe more. They came out of nowhere." An explosion shook the corridor. Juncio steadied himself and raised his rifle. "Then we hold here. If they get past this junction, they have access to the diplomatic quarters. That is where the High Arbiter is located, Ji-hoon said. You think they are after her? I know they are. Jun Seo felt cold certainty settle in his gut. These attacks, the assassins from before, it is all connected. The first wave of mercenaries appeared at the far end of the corridor. Jun Seo opened fire and his team followed. Human accuracy and discipline cut through the attackers with deadly efficiency. But more kept coming. The battle stretched on for what felt like hours. Jun Seo's shoulder screamed with pain every time he fired, but he refused to slow down. He moved through the fight like a force of nature, adapting to every new threat. A group of Velanti guards stumbled into the junction, their eyes wide with terror. Their commander was dead, and they had no idea what to do. Jun Seo grabbed the nearest guard. You, take your team and cover Section 9. You three, with me. We push forward and thin their numbers. The alien stared at him. Why should we listen to a human? Because I am the only one with a plan. Because your people are dying, and standing here will not save them. Now move. Something in his voice cut through their fear. The guards nodded and followed his orders. Within minutes, Jun Seo had organized a coordinated defense that pushed the mercenaries back. Then he saw Threxen. The Lord Commander was cowering behind a stack of cargo containers, his ornate uniform stained with panic sweat. When he saw Jun Seo approaching, terror filled his eyes. Human, help me. They are trying to kill me. Jun Seo stopped in front of him. You did this. You hired these mercenaries. Threxen's face went pale. How did you know? Because they came after Valeth. Because the previous assassins targeted her specifically. Because you cannot stand that she looks at me the way she does. Threxen collapsed to his knees. It was supposed to be simple. They were supposed to kill you and prove that humans are weak. Then Valeth would return to me. But the mercenaries betrayed me. Now they want to capture her for ransom. Rage boiled in Jun Seo's blood. He wanted to leave this pathetic creature to his fate. He wanted to walk away and let the universe deliver justice. But that was not who he was. Get up. Jun Seo grabbed Threxen and pulled him to his feet. Stay behind me and do not get in my way. You are saving me? After everything I have done? I am saving everyone today, even cowards who do not deserve it. That is what humans do. They pushed through the station toward the secure room where Valeth waited. The fighting grew more intense as they got closer. The mercenaries knew their target was near. Jun Seo took 3 energy blasts to his armored vest. He went down hard but forced himself back up. His team covered him as he reached the door to Valeth's refuge. Valeth, it is me. Open the door. The door slid open, and Valeth pulled him inside. Her eyes went wide when she saw his condition. You are hurt. I am fine. He was not fine. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds, and his body screamed for rest. But he could not stop. Not yet. The mercenaries are almost here. We need to hold this position until reinforcements arrive. Valeth grabbed his arm. Human reinforcements? They are coming. Our ships detected the attack and scrambled a response team. We just need to survive a little longer. The final assault came minutes later. Mercenaries flooded the corridor, and Jun Seo's team met them with everything they had. Humans fought with a ferocity that shocked the attackers. They took wounds that should have killed them and kept fighting. Jun Seo held the door himself, cutting down anyone who came near. His rifle ran dry, and he switched to his pistol. When that emptied, he used his knife. When the knife was knocked away, he used his bare hands. Valeth watched from behind him, seeing the truth of humanity for the first time. This was what her species feared. Not just strength or speed, but an absolute refusal to surrender. Humans would fight until their bodies broke, and then they would fight some more. The sound of new weapons fire erupted from behind the mercenaries. Human reinforcements had arrived. Within minutes, the remaining attackers were captured or killed. The station fell silent once more. Juncio swayed on his feet. He looked at Valeth and tried to smile, but his body had finally reached its limit. Darkness closed in from the edges of his vision. "Got you," he whispered. Then he collapsed. Valeth caught him before he hit the ground. She held his broken body in her arms and screamed for medics. Tears streamed down her silver-blue cheeks as she looked at the human who had destroyed himself to save her. "Do not die," she begged. "Please do not die. I need to tell you something. I need you to know." She pressed her forehead against his and whispered words that came from somewhere she had never known existed. "I love you. I love you, and I do not care what that means. Just please do not leave me." The medics arrived and took him away. Valeth stood in the ruined corridor, covered in his blood, and made a decision that would change everything. She would never let anyone else claim her heart. It belonged to him now. It would always belong to him. 3 days passed before Juncio opened his eyes again. The medical bay was quiet this time. Soft light filtered through the observation window, and the steady hum of healing equipment filled the air. His body ached in places he did not know could ache, but he was alive. A familiar face appeared above him. Sergeant Park Yuna smiled with relief. "Welcome back, hero. You gave us all a scare. What happened?" "You saved the station." "That is what happened. The mercenaries are captured, their employer is in custody, and you are being called the greatest warrior in galactic history." Junzio tried to sit up and winced. Threxen? Arrested for treason. He confessed to hiring the mercenaries. The Volanthi government has stripped him of his title and rank. His betrothal to the High Arbiter has been dissolved. Something warm spread through Junacio's chest. Valeth was free. "Where is she?" Yuna's smile grew wider. "She has been here every day, sitting beside your bed. She only left an hour ago to prepare for the diplomatic assembly. I think she would have stayed forever if we had let her." Juncio let his head fall back against the pillow. He stared at the ceiling and thought about everything that had happened. He had nearly died protecting an alien woman he barely knew. And yet, he would do it again without hesitation. Was this what love felt like? He had tried to explain it to Valeth, but he had never expected to experience it himself. Over the next few days, Juncio recovered at a speed that astonished the medical staff. By the end of the week, he was walking the corridors of the station, though his body still moved stiffly. The Galactic Council summoned him to receive official commendation. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to honor the human who had saved countless lives. "Sergeant Kang Juncio," the council speaker announced, "you have demonstrated courage and skill beyond anything we have witnessed. Your actions preserved this station and protected diplomats from 47 worlds. The council wishes to bestow upon you our highest honor." Juncio stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "I am grateful for the recognition, but I cannot accept any honor that is not shared with my team. They fought beside me. They bled beside me. Without them, I would have failed." Whispers rippled through the assembly. Most aliens would have seized glory for themselves. This human was giving credit to others. "Very well," the speaker said. "The honor shall be shared among all human defenders. Is there anything else you wish to say?" Juncio looked across the assembly and found Valeth watching him. She stood among the Volanthi delegation, her silver-blue skin glowing with quiet emotion. "I only did my duty," Juncio said. "Humans protect those who need protecting. It does not matter if they are friends or strangers. It does not matter if they share our blood or come from distant stars. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. That is simply who we are." The assembly fell into stunned silence. Then, slowly, applause began to build. Species that had once looked at humans with contempt now rose to their feet. The sound swelled until it filled the entire chamber. Junicio did not smile. He simply nodded and stepped back. His eyes never left Valeth. Later that evening, a soft knock came at his quarters door. Junicio opened it to find Valeth standing in the corridor. She wore simple robes, and her luminescent eyes shimmered with nervous energy. "May I come in?" He stepped aside and let her enter. The door closed behind them, sealing out the rest of the universe. Valeth stood in the center of the room, looking uncertain for the first time since he had met her. "I do not know where to begin." "Then do not begin. Just say what you came to say." She took a deep breath. "My betrothal is dissolved. My house is angry with me for causing a scandal, but they cannot force me into another arrangement. For the first time in my life, I am free to choose my own path." "What will you do?" "I do not know. I have spent years preparing to be someone's property. I never imagined having a choice." She looked at him with raw vulnerability. "What should I do?" "That is not for me to decide. It is your choice." Valeth stepped closer. "You once told me that humans choose each other. That love is not about ownership, but about partnership. Is that still true?" "It is." "Then I need to ask you something." She reached up and touched his cheek, just as she had done on the observation deck. Her fingers trembled against his skin. "If only you were mine," I said. Those words have haunted me since the moment I spoke them. I did not understand what I was feeling then, but I understand now. Junicio covered her hand with his own. "And what do you feel?" "I feel like my world has changed. I feel like everything I knew before was a lie and you are the only truth. I feel like I would rather spend one moment with you than a lifetime with anyone else." Tears slipped from her luminescent eyes. "I love you, human. I do not care if that is forbidden or impossible. I love you." Junicio pulled her close and looked into her glowing eyes. "You said if only I were yours. But that is not how it works." Pain flickered across her face. "I know. I am sorry. I should not have assumed. Let me finish." He smiled gently. "On Earth, we do not belong to each other. We choose to stand beside each other. You are not something to be owned. You never were. But if you are asking whether I choose to be with you, to walk beside you, to protect you, and love you for as long as I live, then the answer is yes. I already made that choice the moment I took that blade for you." Valeth stared at him with wonder. "You choose me?" "I choose you, and I will keep choosing you every single day." She threw her arms around him and held on as if he might disappear. Junicio held her just as tightly. In that moment, two different worlds came together and became something new. Months later, Valeth stood before the Galactic Council as a new ambassador. Her mission was to advocate for human integration and cultural exchange. She spoke of partnership and choice, of love that was freely given rather than demanded. Beside her stood Junicio. He wore no uniform now. He was not her guard or her protector. He was her partner, her equal, her chosen. Alien delegates watched them with curious eyes. Whispers spread through the chamber. "What is it about these humans that makes even the highest among us fall?" A young alien diplomat leaned toward his colleague. "I heard they come from a world that tried to kill them every day. They survived by protecting each other. That cannot be the only reason." "Perhaps not. But look at them. Look at how she trusts him, and how he stands ready to shield her from anything. Is that not extraordinary?" The colleague nodded slowly. "They do not conquer hearts through power or politics. They earn them, yes, through sacrifice and respect, and the simple belief that everyone deserves to choose their own path. It is quite remarkable." Junseo caught the whispers and smiled. He did not need galactic recognition. He did not need titles or honors. He had something far more valuable. He had a woman who looked at him like he was the only star in an infinite universe. He had a love that defied every rule and expectation. He had a future that he could never have imagined. And as Valeth turned to smile at him, her luminescent eyes bright with joy, Junseo knew the truth that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. Humans did not just survive their dangerous world. They learned to love fiercely, protect completely, and choose each other above all else. That was the real reason aliens feared them. That was the secret of humanity's strength. And that was the greatest gift Junseo had ever given. Not his fighting skills or his courage, but his heart. Freely offered. Freely accepted. Freely shared. Forever.